This is a preview for the Ravens Saints Monday Night Football matchup, and just kind of a look at what I think are some of the core elements or things that the Ravens need to take care of and focus on in order to leave New Orleans with a 6-3 record. It seems like this Ravens team in 2022 is like a weekly television show on multiple levels. But the main level that I'm mentioning here is that there's no time to stop and appreciate the resolution of the drama that was concluded in last week's episode or last week's game before we have to move on and get to deal with another layer or multiple layers of drama. And that's what I say when I compare it to like a television show. The last one that myself and some friends were hooked on was, I think it was called How to Get Away with Murder. And it was like some different drama every week on multiple levels, and you didn't even really get to appreciate the resolution of one drama. I guess you did in the interim, or in between the shows debuting. And that's where I think the comparison really starts off solid, to be honest with you, because we haven't been able to. Normally, you get a brief respite from drama in between games, and you understand when you're going to ride the wave of anxiety, worry, and then hopefully, being glad and relieved that you got to win. And we've had 11 days of rest since the Ravens Thursday Night Football win over the Bucs in terms of our players. And that was a complete win. Even though the score was too close for the sense of control that the Ravens had in the second half, you would think that long break would have allowed all of us as fans to have some type of pause in our collective anxiety. And give us, hopefully, a sense of like an impending climb or run up the AFC ranks. We moved to 5-3, and I can't imagine anyone having a tougher opening to the season in terms of schedule strength. Look at our first 6 games. It was against teams who are combined 34-18. The Jets, Giants, Bills, and Dolphins all have 6 wins apiece, and the Bengals and Patriots are each 5-4. While dealing with their own host of injuries like we are and the Saints are too. Overall, I think the Ravens' opponents are like 41-28 through 8 weeks. That includes games against us. Being 5-3 should have instilled in us like our own sense of worth as a team, especially considering the last 3 wins. The 1917 win over the Bengals at home, 23-20 win over the Browns, and then the road 27-22 win over Tom Brady and the Bucs. Those 3 wins came while we were navigating our own host of injuries and players returning from injury. They should have given us a real understanding of who it is we root for and how much we can trust them. It has not. Not at all. Just at a time when our offense, which is attacked by all of us from various angles, right, so far in 2022, no matter what our perspective is, we've all attacked or criticized or gone at our offensive strategy, implementation, execution from different angles. That offense was brutally efficient in the second half against the Bucs. Put on a show. That should be a source of strength for us, but now we're going to face the Saints in like our most compromised state, really, since 2021, when it was a constant state of adversity. Because this week's game, is full of like ridiculous drama. Insanity, really. Mark Andrews won't play. Good. I'm glad he's going to get a lot of rest. Neither will Gus Edwards. J.K. Dobbins is still out like another 6 weeks, something like that, if not more. And then there's Rashad Bateman. And look, I want to go on record. If you've not been able to tell already from listening to my channel, I think Bateman is an extremely talented guy. It seems obvious to me now that he's been dealing with some type of injury for longer than maybe we knew about. Or that this issue, I think this issue may even date back to the Bills games. I don't know. I don't have the injury status for each week memorized at this point. But looking back, he was only playing 35 snaps a game. And I wonder if there was some kind of reason why. In my opinion, we've really only seen like the fully healthy version of Bateman, what he's capable of doing in like the first 3 weeks. He played quite poorly against the Bills in week 4, which was an anomaly, in my opinion. Anyway, he's out for the year, coinciding with Andrews, having at least 2 health concerns converging and what is apparently a hamstring injury to Edwards. So the version of Rashad Bateman that I believe is the real version is this one. And I'm not going to show the play against Xavier Howard. I'm not going to show the touchdown against the Jets. This is late in the game against the Patriots, and it's the acceleration for me. It's the acceleration and the footwork to get himself open. Pushing off vertical. This is the version of Rashad Bateman that, in my mind, I think of when I talk about him. And it's antiquated and boring for people to say number one receiver, number two receiver, that just doesn't interest me at all. There's a lot of talent there that's been underutilized or underperformed or hasn't given out the output, consistent output like this that we know he's capable of. Whatever phrase or phrases you want to apply, go ahead. I just know the guy can play and we miss him. He's a huge loss. So having said all that about the offense from earlier, like a brutally efficient second half, put up a ton of yards, ton of points against the Bucs, really controlled the game. We're now in a situation where offensively, we've got a ton of questions going into a game that a lot of us wrote down as a win. So how do we get there? Well, it would have been great if we had Gus Edwards, right? He'd been playing well. 2 games played, 27 carries, 131 yards against the Browns and the Bucs. I think he had 2 touchdowns, maybe it's 1. Gus is good at every concept we use him on. Well, just so you know, we don't use him on certain concepts. We do not use him on QB power read or QB counter read. We just don't. We tend to have certain guys in on some of those concepts. Now, so Kenyon Drake, Justice Hill are going to have to carry the load in terms of the run game. I think those guys are capable, don't get me wrong, but we sure would like to have Gus Edwards out there. I'm going to show you 2 plays of Gus because I feel like I would feel remiss if all I did was show you pictures the whole time. I know I've been talking a lot. So just to talk about some of the things that we will miss. Now, this is Kenyon Drake. This is our regular option play. I'm going to refer back to this later. When I say regular option, I mean Lamar opening, reading the D end, and no one pulling to the other side. So there's no wind back of the running back. Now, there may be a cutback, and it looks like it will be developing here if Lamar gives the football. In this case, he keeps it, runs around the edge. You have a tight end or H-back in motion, likely going to pick someone up to the play side. So when I say our regular motion, what I mean is our regular option is the running back generally threatening the side that Lamar opens to. So same side threat. As opposed to, and I'll talk about this later, our counter wind back, where the running back and Lamar threaten opposite sides of the field. And I kind of think that's been working a little bit better. But we'll get to Gus Edwards here. This stretch play, to me, it really sets off our offense. It really makes us damn near impossible to defend because it allows our guys to go attack people. It forces these D linemen to kind of work laterally instead of attacking. The moment we got the Bucs D-line having to work laterally, having to worry about gap integrity, we were better served for it. And, it helped out Morgan Moses, Tyler Linderbaum. Here's Ricard out here leading up on a D end. Our guys are able to go attack people, go get up on people. And we're utilizing Gus's strength. That was the last run he had in that game, and the hamstring injury really flared up after that. End zone angle. Another stretch play. Gus, unfortunate that we won't have him. Who can replace him? I'm not sure. I mean, Drake and Hill have both had some great moments this year, don't get me wrong. But this one cut by Gus and being able to get his shoulder pads parallel to the line of scrimmage like here so abruptly is something I think he's just better at all the other guys at. It's a consistent 5-6 yards out of Gus throughout his career, and we're going to miss it. Rolling in to face the Saints with just Drake and Hill, it would normally be something we would feel a certain level of confidence in, right? Because that we have the run game to lean on. It has been generating more offense, more first downs as the year's gone on. But to have Drake and Hill as our 2 running backs in the same game where we're without Andrews and Bateman, it's a huge game, guys. It's a huge game for a lot of reasons, for a lot of players. I don't think it can be overstated for real how big of a game this is. The Saints got their own health issues, all right? Michael Thomas is out for the year, having a lot of trouble staying available, which sucks because he's so talented and unique. Their all-pro corner, Marshawn Lattimore, is out for Monday. Jarvis Landry hasn't played in a month since week 4 in London. Jameis Winston, the presumed starting QB, obviously for the Saints, he's been out for even longer than that. So no one's immune to these issues. But we, as Ravens fans, we focus on our own situation because we want this team to win so badly, especially after all the slander that went Lamar's way in 2021. I think the importance of this game can really only be understood by looking at the AFC standings, the overall standings after Sunday's game. The Saints, from a Ravens perspective, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, are just in the way of where we want to go. I don't mean that they can't beat us, because I'm going to do a little pseudo prediction later on, and Ravens fans aren't going to like part of it, and if there's any Saints fans who listen that long, they're not going to like 2/3 of it either. The Saints are just in the Ravens' way from our perspective. But I'm going to talk about wins here in terms of AFC standings, not records, because every team's going to get to play 17 games. And in my opinion, if the Ravens don't get to 12 wins, then they're on the road early in the playoffs or for every playoff game that they play. And that's a problem with all the talent that's there. So let's do it this way. The Bills, Dolphins, and Jets, essentially 3/4 of the AFC East, they're all at 6 wins. The Patriots, Bengals, and Chargers are 1 win back at 5 each. In my opinion, if we lose to the Saints, being at 5 wins after 9 games played is not 1 game behind. It's not. There's just too many good teams, very good teams. If that happens, Monday night, there's too many good teams with 6 wins for me to look at it that way. It's not a 1-game differential. I think a loss here against the Saints, and look, the Saints are talented. They're efficient. They're tough as hell. They got winners, Tyrann Mathieu, Cameron Jordan, Mark Ingram, among others. But in my opinion, a loss against them is 2 losses. Because being 5-4 with all those teams ahead of us with 6, well, you got the Titans and the Chiefs, as I'm recording this, are finishing their game, but the Titans have outplayed them for most of the game. Who knows how it finishes up? I won't publish this till Monday morning. So there'll be 4 teams with 6 wins ahead of us if we were to lose to the Saints. To me, that's not a 1-game differential. It's 2. It's damn near 3 from where we want to be. And look, those AFC East teams are going to play each other at least 1 more time each. And I know we have a back-end schedule that's not of the same caliber as our opening 6 weeks. Again, every team we played in the opening month and a half, the first 6 weeks, is at 5 or 6 wins. Every single one of them. I think that's instructive for who we are as a team. Now, having said that, I constantly refer to, mentally, I constantly refer to Week 8 or Week 18 matchup, the regular season finale against the Bengals. One that they might need, because of their injury issues, to get where they want to be. And I think we need some cushion or some comfort. I don't think we can be going into that game with 11 wins. I just don't. Now, maybe somebody listens to this later on, a couple of months from now. Maybe we've had some injury problems and we don't get anywhere near 11 or 12 wins. I mean, that's possible. But in my opinion, looking at the way we've played in the first half of our schedule, the first 8 games, against the quality of teams we've competed against and beaten in some cases, I think it's entirely possible that we're at 11 or 12 wins at that. And in my opinion, this game is a real determining factor. I don't know how we get to the 12-win mark with a loss here. I guess that's a little bit of hyperbole. Or last week, I guess I said it wrong, hyperbole, and people were confused. My bad. I don't know how to say it clearly. But this, to me, looks like a real opportunity to define ourselves as a real threat to anybody. And I think we are. I really do. I think even with this depleted roster that we'll have tonight or tomorrow night against the Saints, I think we are a real threat to anyone. I do think the onus is on the offense to generate some points, consistently get some first downs. I think we have ways to do it. I'm going to show some here. And that's even if Demarcus Robinson doesn't play. I know that the Saints have injury issues as well. So let me list some of the issues, some of the ways I think we can attack them, and hopefully give you some optimism. I know it's like, what's that? What's optimism? We seem very averse to it, even though we're 5-3, myself included. Okay, so first, there's about 8 or 10 concepts that Lamar Jackson has got a great handle on, and run pass concepts. And we should use as many of those as possible, as often as possible. All right. One of them is a cheat play. Now, it's related to the Devin Duvernay issue, meaning, how often are we getting Devin Duvernay the ball, right? It's a cheat play. A running back is on the same side as the bunch. We're pulling 1 or 2 linemen. away from the running back, and I'm only showing one version of this for a couple of reasons. We're pulling the left guard. The running back is supposed to cross face. Now, we've had 2 instances this year where our running back is not on the same page. This looks like it's been predetermined by Lamar to throw the ball out here to Duve. The brilliance of this is you've got a tight end and a fullback out here blocking. It's a mismatch in our favor. Now, the Browns seem to understand that. They've apexed out the Mike linebacker, and they've got a second inside linebacker who's apexed out. So they're trying to match our strength with strength. Inside linebacker versus tight end. Get the fullback on the corner. This guy, leverage-wise, is too far inside to get there. Due for a 10-yard gain. He had one of these against the Bucks. He had one of these against the Bills. We basically are sprinkling in one of these each game. He can do more. If you want to sit and moan and complain about the receiver situation, go right ahead. That's not my job. That's not what I look at my job as. My job is to go through the film and show you things that I think the players can do, the players are doing, and where we make mistakes. And this, to me, is just an example of, I think that's Martin Emerson there, who's playing pretty well for them. I might be wrong on the number. That might not be him. Duve needs the ball. Along with the concepts that Lamar can run, that Lamar he runs well. It's a beautiful throw by him, by the way. Gets man coverage up the sideline. Great throw. Along with the concepts that are, reliable for Lamar, we've got to get the ball to Devin Duvernay. We just do. Whether it's on that bunch screen I showed you or a couple of other plays I'll show you in a moment, we've got to get the ball to him. Especially now with Andrews out. Bateman out for the year. Gus out. Dobbins out for at least another 4, 6, 7 weeks, whatever it is. Got to figure out a way to get the ball to that guy, in my opinion, and be creative. Like we were in the Browns game. I thought it was the Browns game. Maybe it was the Bengals game. One of those two, I thought we did a great job of getting him the ball. All right, another concept that we use a lot is getting the ball to the tight ends, right? And we can do that even if we don't have Andrews. I'm going to show you 3 plays here, kind of talk over some stuff. Likely had a huge game against the Bucks. Is he going to be able to recreate that against the Saints? I don't think so. It's not that I don't think he has the talent. I'm going out on a limb here and saying it's going to be very difficult for a rookie to have that kind of impact in consecutive games. I hope to be wrong. I really do. I hope to be wrong. I think the Saints' inside linebackers and their safeties are pretty smart. I really like their inside linebacker duo. I like ours better, though, now with Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen. But theirs is pretty good. Werner and Demario Davis, they're impressive. So let's look at, what do we got that Lamar does well? Well, pistol play action. Now, this isn't an over concept. 6-yard completion to Andrews. I love that we're getting the running back out into the flats. There's really no play action mesh with the running back. You can see the running back is going to the right. Lamar is reverse pivoting here, and you're getting the tight end running out. So it's a high-low. That's all it is. A high-low. It's not an over concept. You get a clear out route by the number 1. Over concept would be some type of play action with Lamar, and then the tight end running something like this. And we've seen Mark Andrews catch a crap ton of those throughout his career. Little flood concept, easy completion. Those we've got to get. How do you get them? Well, the running game's got to be working some, right? You can also do, we've done this, I think, 3 times this year, under center, 1 back, play action to the Z, which is Demarcus Robinson in this case. It may not be Demarcus Robinson in Monday Night Football. Look, every team has injuries. I'm not going to sit and listen to people complain about our number of injuries and blame it on any person, to be honest with you. Everyone has injuries. Try being the Titans last year. Their injury situation was just as bad as ours. The Saints are in an awful situation injury-wise. It happens. It's football. That's the nature of football. And it always will be until they legislate out all physicality. Another play-action situation, and again, you've got Andrews, and watch what the Patriots do. Some of these teams are aware of our tendency for getting the ball to Andrews on play-action. This looks like a double team, right? Certainly does. No one open down here. We end up with Oliver in pass pro. He slips out late. Lamar finds him. We're going to need Lamar to do something like that probably 5-6 times in the game tomorrow night or Monday night, this evening. I've recorded this on Sunday night, like I said. We're going to need Lamar to create some extra offense just by being aware, being a little bit more mobile than maybe other quarterbacks in the league, and finding someone, even if it's only for like a 7-yard gain here, as opposed to a sack. Finding those concepts that we can rely on, to me, is just going to be the difference between a drive being sustained because we're in 3rd and 2, as opposed to us being in a 3rd and 9 that's somewhat low percentage. The other thing, and I haven't talked about this a lot, and I don't have video of it, is find the matchups on 3rd down. And I think that's where the coaches are going to have to be creative, and the coaches are going to have to be on their game for real. Lamar's done a great job of finding the matchups on 3rd down, particularly when he had Andrews, Bateman, and Duve healthy. In those situations, like, for example, the 2 touchdowns against the Jets, well, the first one, really, he found Duve against the 3rd or 4th best cover guy for the Jets. Now who does Duvernay get? Well, hell, he might get the Saints' best guy. Well, the Saints' best guy is Lattimore, and he's out. But in any case, we may have to figure out a way to scheme or out-formation them a little bit and try to get Duvernay open on something that we haven't typically used him on. All right, another thing that I haven't mentioned or we haven't talked about a ton on the channel that really needs to be talked about, and we talked about in our Discord somewhat, is our use of zone and stretch schemes. And I'm going to digress a lot here with this. This is going to be a little bit preachy. We have used gap schemes in our option scheme a lot since 2019. Again, option, Lamar and the running back threatening the same side. That will be our option. We've been using the counter wind back, Lamar opening to his right, the running back winding it back the other way, behind, a pulling fullback and usually a pulling guard, right? So it ends up looking like power, but it could still be a read. It's a gap scheme that is a pistol read play. When we mix that up with stretch, I think we become incredibly more dangerous to the defense. We give them multiple looks in terms of which direction Lamar, I know I've already shown you this play. We give them multiple looks in terms of which direction Lamar opens to. And like I said, we let these guys get out and attack instead of just down blocking or pulling. I think it really helped Morgan Moses. He played quite poor against the Browns the week before, and I thought he played fantastic in this game against the Bucs. Not only did we run stretch, I'm going to skip the second one because I already showed you that one. We ran zone read. Now, this kind of was weird to me. It was ironic because the announcer was talking about us running zone read as an option team, and that is not our base option play. In fact, these are the only 2 zone. Well, I should say there was a third that I think might have been earlier in the year. I think I've got 3 that I would call zone read. The rest of it is inside veer. That's what we are out of the pistol until we use the counter wind back, but it's a counter scheme. That's why the name has counter in it. It's not an option run scheme in terms of zone or inside veer. The Ravens pistol scheme is an inside veer scheme. No one runs outside veer in the NFL. Hell, no one runs outside veer in pretty much any other level of football either. It's a very unique and demanding play to stop. This is zone read. We're reading Barrett. The O-line is running zone. You can see the combo blocks beginning here. Lamar's read it. He's going to keep it around the edge. I love the fake double team that we've got here on the slot defender. Teams are not ready for this. They're not. They're not ready for us to just say, all right, we're going to run zone read, and we know you're going to gap exchange it. That's what the Tennessee Titans do. They gap exchange it. He's going to force a keep read. Inside linebacker is going to scrape over the top and have to chase down Lamar. We don't block him in this case. Or is it possible that Prochet is supposed to get this slot and likely is supposed to get this linebacker? That is possible. That's entirely possible. As it is, it ends up being a 5-yard gain that probably should have been helmet-to-helmet contact right there, although it doesn't look intentional to me. But the way the game is called now, that is typically called helmet-to-helmet contact. Another example of zone read, only a 2 or 3 yard gain, though, for real. I think I'll give you the end zone angle of this one. There's no puller, so it's not a gap scheme. There's no kick out block. It's not split zone. I mean, you've got Prochet in motion, all right? So if we're letting him kick people, the only other receiver the Ravens have ever done anything that looks like this with in terms of run a receiver in motion and kick out block is Willie Snead. That's why he was so valuable, because he could catch, he could play, he could run routes, he could win big situations, and he was willing to kick people out. This looks like zone read to me. Could just be a called give. because Lamar's posture, to me, doesn't look like he's possibly going to keep the ball. See how his shoulder pads are rising up? You're not normally doing that with the read. And again, I just don't feel like his posture looks like he's going to keep it. So this could be a called give, all right? No way, shape, or form am I saying Lamar Jackson doesn't read it, because I've read that. I've actually read that, heard that from some popular football analysts before. I think we got zone read twice in the Bucs game, and I think it can be a real weapon for this Ravens team. Usually when you get any read play and we've got someone in motion, usually this guy's going to read the end man on the line of scrimmage, just like Lamar is. It's called a dual read. Let's say he was to run down the line of scrimmage, then Prochet would just loop out and go lead. Lamar would theoretically keep it and follow Prochet's lead around the edge. I've talked about that multiple times on this channel. I think us running some zone read stuff and a little bit more stretch. Here's the end zone angle of the same play. You can see the end has stepped out to likely. This is a different play. This is the same concept, but this is actually a different play. Justice Hill cuts it back, and you get a nice job by Moses comboing the D tackle and then working up to the inside linebacker. Nice cutback by Justice Hill. I think Justice Hill and Kenyon Drake, it does help them if we run some more zone stuff. I think it puts a little more conflict in the defense, having to worry about gap schemes, having to worry about zone schemes. I will say this, though. In the pistol, we run our pistol option, or we run counter wind back, or we run stretch. We don't run inside zone out of the pistol. In the A-gun, B-gun, what I call A-gun, B-gun, this will be A, tight end here, running back same side. I call that A-gun. We run inside zone. Hopefully that makes sense. So as a defensive player, if you've prepared yourself mentally for the tendencies that teams show you, that you certainly have the ability to look at our formation and say, okay, I know it's not this, I know it's not that. Hopefully that makes sense. The zone read, the inside zone, and the stretch schemes, if you ask me, is just going to open up the offense. Now, the Saints' defense is if you ask me, is better than their points per game allowed shows. All right, to run a comparison, I'm talking about the Saints' defense now. We have given up 183 points in 8 games against teams that have won 41 games. Okay, hopefully I did my math right. We're at like almost 23 points allowed per game. The Saints have given up 200 points in 8 games, so 17 more points. They're uneven 25 per game, right? 25 times 8 is 200. One encouraging thing for us Ravens fans is that those games, they're giving up more points. They're against teams that are combined 33 and 37, so a little bit impressive schedule than ours in terms of win-loss. But look, Saints beat the Seahawks. They're the last team to beat the Seahawks. That was the Taysom Hill game. All right, there's been a lot of those over the years, but this was this year's version of the Taysom Hill game. 3 rushing touchdowns and 112 yards, 1 passing touchdown, which was a great throw over the middle. And then, he had 3 kick returns as well in only 23 snaps. That's insane. In a 39-32 win, that, like I said, is the last time the Seahawks lost. Guy gave them 4 touchdowns, 3 kick returns. One of the touchdowns was a passing touchdown. Now the Seahawks are 6-3. That looks like a great win. If the Saints get, and look, I'm not discounting Alvin Kamara and Chris Olave. Hopefully you saw my video I put out on him Saturday evening. Like, those dudes are ballers. You're going to get what you're going to get from them. They're going to produce. They are. In my opinion, we've got to limit their secondary guys. They've got a receiver. I think Traquan Smith, he's pretty talented, tough. Taysom Hill, the tight end, number 83. Those guys we've got to limit. If Taysom Hill gives them anything above 60, 70%, 50 to 60% of that impact I just described against the Seahawks, I think this game is shifted in the Saints' favor. Kamara and Olave are going to produce. If you ask me, the other potential big playmaker who can hurt you with one play is Taysom Hill, besides those two. Now, unless we put them in a meat grinder with the run game, and I'm talking about like the zone and the stretch stuff, I think we're going to need to be able to get to 24, 27 points, something like that, in order to win this game. Unless we put them in a meat grinder with the run game and we can really chew up clock like we did against the Bucs. But I don't think that we have as compromised the defense we're facing here with the Saints. They still got Cam Jordan. They still got 2 really great inside linebackers. Tyrann Mathieu. Their corners are playing better. The Saints defense has some real pieces. Unfortunately, and some people aren't going to like this, I think this might be a game where Lamar needs 8 or 10 carries. I really do. I think it's a game where he might get 8 or 10 carries by design, but I don't want them to happen early. I don't know about you. I'd like to see Lamar get the ball late, and after those guys have already gone through 2 or 3 read progressions of trying to figure out who's got the football on the option or what we're doing on play action stuff, because they've got some real pieces over there. I mean, Cam Jordan and Demario Davis have 5 sacks each. Matthew has 2 interceptions and a fumble recovery. He's also got 38 tackles. Personally, though, I've seen some things on film. He looks a little less decisive and abrupt than in previous years with the Chiefs, but he's still making plays. And then their leading tackler is Pete Werner, who's a second-year inside linebacker, 71 total tackles, 52 solo. He's playing like 92% of the snaps through 8 games. I think the Ravens are going to use, I think they're going to use the Greg Roman game plan, right? They're going to use a lot of multiple personnel groups. They're going to run behind Ricard or try to use that tendency to run. Once the Saints compensate for us running behind Ricard, then we're going to try to go back the other way. Some play action to likely. All of those things sound plausible, right? If the O-line can keep Jordan and Davis and some of the other guys from getting to the quarterback, when we do pass, I think we can get to 24 points quite easily. I shouldn't say easily. I think we won't need anything that's not organic to get to 24, like a couple of turnovers or a pick six, or maybe a huge punt return or kick return by Duve or somebody else. And if the defense plays well, at this point, if our defense starts to really mesh, because we've got a true stud coming in now in Roquan Smith, if the defense plays well, and Justin Houston keeps winning his matchups, and let's be honest, he has a matchup he can win. He's going against James Hurst, who we all know as Ravens fans. If the coaches can figure out the matchups that we can win, I think that's a potential 10-point swing if our defense is able to get after the quarterback, get pressure on him, and we're able to cover Kamara, which is very difficult to do. Very difficult. That's a matchup that you would think will be in their favor against any of our linebackers, even our nickel safeties, for real. And I don't really do a great job with predictions, to be real, because there's so many variables. But this one feels like one to me where turnovers on either side could basically create mirror images of the score. And here's what I mean. If there's turnovers early in a game, that'll be the difference between a physically imposing Ravens win that's like 27-14 or 27-12 sticking in my head, or maybe even 27-20 where we need to stop late if we're only -1 or +1 in the turnover differential. If we're +2, then I think you've got a pretty clear Ravens win. The Saints, conversely, are more than capable. They got a solid O-line. Defense has got talent at every level. They're more than capable of beating us by the same score if they get a +1 or a +2 in the turnover margin. And we're not operating at peak defensive effort, which I think is going to be interesting. Again, I'm putting the onus on the offense to score points somehow. But I understand the Ravens might come out with a ball control mentality and let the defense do their job. If there's no turnovers, both teams show up and play well offensively. No turnovers. We both get our run games going. I think the Ravens can win 31-27, 28-27. But in that scenario, I think we need a superhuman effort from Lamar. But I hope that's not the plan. I hope the plan is spread the ball around, regardless of personnel. That's a cleaner path. I think that's more efficient and reliable. Keep the defense off balance, and then use Lamar in the right moments. And here's the game I'm going to compare it to. If you're a Ravens fan still listening, then I think you get it. If you're not a Ravens fan, then you may not. That's okay. It's the Patriots game in Week 3, where Lamar takes over late. Sometimes it's QB counter read, sometimes it's QB power read, sometimes it's a play action pass. And we get out of there. I'm talking about no turnovers. Both teams' offense is able to move the ball. We get out of there with a 31-27 win because Lamar is able to, drop a couple touchdown passes in there and then take over late with some of his passes, scrambles, and run game. Now let's add in another element, okay? Our offense does what I just described. Lamar takes over late, and our defense shows up and balls out. If Houston and the guys with the pass rush can do what they've been doing lately, because we were at 23, 25 sacks this year, I think. If the interior D tackles are winning on the front side and the back side of the zone and stretch stuff, which they have been all year. If Roquan Smith shows up and plays like the best player on the field, like he's done a lot in the NFL, our DBs are playing well and really only giving up short throws. We're not letting Olave beat us deep, not giving up anything kind of weird or offbeat to Taysom Hill. If that defense shows up and the offense is balanced like I described, I really don't care what the score is. Like I feel like the Ravens have got a good chance, even with a compromised group on offense in terms of personnel. We can get to 6-3, fly home, and hopefully get healthy for the stretch run. Saints are more than capable of making this game close to the end. That's why I described it as, if both teams' offenses play well and the defenses are a step or two behind the offenses, 31-27, 31-28, 30-27, something like that makes sense to me. I hope that's not what we see for real. I think we're going to see a good game. I hope you enjoy the game, no matter what team you're rooting for real. It's going to be a good one. Let me know what you think of some of my thoughts here about the game, some of the film I showed, which wasn't a ton. I try to do this for a Saturday morning live stream most weeks, guys, and the defensive film for the Saints did not comply. So I had 7 possessions of the Saints defense against the Raiders, which I thought was a great game. But in retrospect, looking at it, apparently Devonta Adams was kind of sick. And I think that may have had some impact because he only had 1 catch for 3 yards. And you can see what he did this Sunday. Even though the Raiders blew another 17-0 lead, he had 2 touchdown catches in a big game in terms of yards. I think we're in for a good one on Monday night. I think we're in for a more competitive game than the Ravens-Bucks game, which finished up 27-22, obviously. But this Saints team that's going to be on the field and the Ravens team that's going to be down there are closer, talent-wise, if you ask me, than the Ravens team. And that's similarly compromised Bucks team that played at home on Thursday Night Football a week and a half ago. I'm predicting a Ravens win. Depending on how our defense plays is the score differential and whether or not we turn the football over. Let me know what you think of my thoughts, what your score prediction is, what you think is the most important element to the game. To me, I think it's turnovers and how our offensive coaches go about finding matchups in space for the playmakers that we do have available out there. Devin Duvernay, Isaiah Likely, Drake, and Hill, and then obviously Lamar, who I would like to see be used as a closer late, instead of him trying to carry the full offensive burden and load for 4 quarters. Appreciate you guys checking out the video. Let me know what you think in the comment section.